world starts their reaction to the fact Benjamin Netanyahu is possibly more powerful than ever before after his party's election victory. But there is an underlying issue for Israel, Jews, and everyone around the world. The daily pounding of hate that emanates from social media and travels around the world in seconds. Our guest is Associate Dean of the Simon Wiesenthal Center, the leading Jewish human rights organization with more than 400,000 family members. It's a pleasure to welcome back Rabbi Abraham Cooper to MidPoint. Rabbi, always a pleasure. Thanks for joining us.
And good to see you again.
Let us go ahead and deal first of all with Israel. How did Benjamin Netanyahu escape when everybody, and I mean everybody, figured that this was going to be his swan song?
Well, first, just to summarize it real quickly, 72% of Israelis voted, and they opted for the security concerns over some serious socioeconomic issues. I think three people impacted directly into, if you will, the Israeli voter psyche. The Ayatollah, the president of the Palestinian Authority, Mr. Abbas, and the president of the United States. I'm not putting them in the same basket, but I think in terms of the U.S., many Israelis across the board are concerned. They don't feel that there's a coherent approach to the implosion of the neighborhood. And obviously the Iranian issue, the threat, not only nuclear, but now what's developing on the Golan Heights with Iran and Hezbollah entrenching themselves. This is a country where people send their 18-year-old boys and girls out to join the military. So when you vote, you may be having, lives in the balance. And I think that was the overwhelming issue, although Bibi Netanyahu gained his economic mojo, if you will, by helping jumpstart the Israeli economy years ago. And don't be surprised if he doesn't focus more on that issue going forward, because a significant portion of the population is focused on those concerns. But the bottom line is Israel lives in a very, very tough neighborhood. It's a very unsettled time for everyone. There's an existential threat. And I also, having myself been in the Congress watching the Netanyahu speech, which I thought was very important and delivered brilliantly with respect to the United States, that it reminded everyone, friend and foe alike, that Bibi Netanyahu has earned his place on the international stage. And I think those factors combined, and I think his personal message and charisma, to sort of break through to middle Israel, and they said, you know what, these are very, very tough times. Let's go with the person that we know and with a coalition that we can trust. The reason I brought up Abbas is that right now there is no peace partner for a two-state solution. If there was, then it's probable, I think it's probable there would have been a change in government. The left obviously is much more committed to the idea of a two-state solution. Bibi may yet come back to it if there is a viable partner. And all the Palestinians do after the latest election, we're going back to the International Criminal Court. We're going to push back at the UN. Hamas hasn't changed. And it's a terrible tragedy for the average Palestinian, frankly, because they have a corrupt, ineffective leadership, and they're really caught between a rock and a hard place. So I think the two-state solution issue will eventually come back, but there's no timetable for it, and it's not going to happen before the end of President Obama's second term.
The few minutes that we have here, I want to make sure that we also talk about what the center is doing here. It is the 2015 annual Digital Terrorism and Hate Report that is talking about what in many cases are problematic websites, those sites that simply allow a lot of the hate speech, not only aimed at the Jews, but so many other people around the world, to basically make its way around the planet, and they don't seem to do much to stop it. And I see a lot of the grading systems here. Instagram got an A from you folks, Facebook with a B, but Google and YouTube and Twitter and others, they're still not getting the job done in helping to stop this. They need to be a little bit more proactive, actually a lot more proactive, don't they?
Right. And the main focus of this year's report is really not on hate speech, but on terrorism. And unfortunately, the social networking giants often provide that very powerful marketing tool that's being manipulated by ISIS, Al-Shabaab, Al-Qaeda, etc., to successfully recruit young people, women, etc., to come to the Middle East and fight and also to instruct lone wolves around the world. And what we need is a giant like Twitter to come up with a set of rules that they'll live up to put some support staff on it, and to degrade the possibilities of these terrorist groups from continuing so far their incredibly successful campaign. So we meet with these giants. We've met with Twitter. I think YouTube, Google now heading in the right direction, but a long way to go. And Facebook really is the template for what we're looking for. They have transparent rules. They put real people in place. They have teams in 3 continents to try to review the overwhelming glut of information that's out there. There are over 1 billion separate pages. That's with a B. These are incredible, unprecedented numbers. The problem is that the evildoers and the bad guys, I think they understand as well as any company or media outlet the power of social media, and they're manipulating it brilliantly. We have to work together to degrade it.
I only got about 30 seconds left. Do you get the feeling that these groups are serious about this, that they understand what needs to be done, and they are willing to take those next steps in order to stop all this hate speech and all these various issues on their own sites?
Some of the companies do. I think that Twitter got a rude awakening when their CEO's life was threatened a few weeks ago, when they actually started removing thousands of the postings of ISIS and related groups. We're seeing a move in the right direction, frankly, because the daily horrors that we see emanating from ISIS, Al-Shabaab, and Al-Qaeda are always linked to the internet. So we have to degrade those capabilities and degrade the food chain of terrorism, which relies in many, many ways on social networking giants.
The Simon Wiesenthal Center continues to do such excellent work. Please keep it up and keep the pressure on these folks. Rabbi Cooper, always a pleasure. Thanks so much for joining us. I look forward to the next time we speak.
Thank you, Ed.
All right, take care. This will grip America for the next few days like no other sideshow.
All right.
We're going to break and come back with a few words on these teams playing a few basketball games at various points around the country. It will indeed have everybody thinking about it, so get out the pencil and get the brackets ready. We're next on MidPoint.